Hi, guys. I am back with Billy Phillips. I see a bunch of you are here already. Let's just see who's here. Hey, Chase. Hey, Donna. Hey, Sydney. So I have the distinct honor and privilege of having Billy Phillips on with me again. Billy, can you see me?
Yeah, but not on the phone, but I can see on my browser.
How about when you go to my channel?
I'm on your chat.
Do you
Now I
see?
see you.
Okay, so we're having some minor technical difficulties, but I think it could work, right?
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
If they could share this wisdom in a dirty old cave 2,000 years ago, we can share it, via tech.
Yeah, yes, we can.
That's not perfect.
Yeah. Okay, so I just wanted to thank you, Billy, for doing this with me. And I just want to remind everybody how Billy changed my life. I took his course, Unredacting Jesus, and he filled in so many missing pieces of the story of what's going on, of biblically and currently. And I feel that Billy, I feel you hold the central piece of this puzzle that we're all trying to figure out what's going on in the world right now. And I think God has given different missions to different people. And I think you're holding the biggest nut. I think you have like Billy Phillips out there, with the most unassuming, humble teacher I've ever met. You're fun, you're funny, you have clarity, you present information clearly with humor. And I can't even begin to tell you how you have changed my life, and making me understand the treasure that we hold. And it's contagious because I see the way that you want to share it, and it makes me want to share it in the same way. Because when you have something good, you just want other people to have the same thing you have, so we can all help each other climb out of this mess that we're in right now. And I think your message today is the pinnacle, is the thing that can accelerate, bring protection, bring abundance, bring everything that humanity is trying to usher in this new age. As we see the world falling apart, as we see from events yesterday, right, Billy, that things are hitting a certain acceleration, an unstoppable momentum. And we want to put in everybody's hands this thing that we found that can protect you, protect your family, bring light. And what else, Billy? What's our point here?
The point is the end game. And the end game is the end of pain, suffering, and death itself. And more important, or equally important, is our doubts about that even happening. We can even eradicate those doubts that happily ever after is in the cards, is our destiny, is achievable ASAP.
Okay, so without further ado, Billy, I can't thank you enough for the ways that you have illuminated my life. And I just hope everybody watching can experience the same illumination that you have brought to me. And I ask, if this helped you, share this. After we're done recording, share this video far and wide so we can spread this message, and help bring peace to the world.
Okay.
All you
So
do.
first, just to begin, I want to say none of this is mine. So I appreciate the kind words, but everything given to me was from my teacher, and he got it from his teacher and all the Kabbalists throughout history. So I'm just sharing what I've lived and learned. That's it. I'm not a teacher. I'm a student, and that's the key. We all have to be students and teachers, but true students, instead of that, and that when we reach a critical mass of people who just have this wisdom, this connection, that we get that critical mass, that's when we can end the pain, suffering, and death and all darkness. So I'll begin. What I'm going to share, just to give you a quick heads up, is how we will achieve protection, mercy, blessing during times of judgment. And I'm going to give you what happened, just a taste throughout history. And it's all about the book called Zohar. Now, for those that are here for the first time or those that do not know, the Torah, the Old Testament, is the body of wisdom given to Moses. But every body has a soul, and that soul is the Zohar, the inner meaning of the Torah. The Torah tells you how, the Zohar tells you why. The Torah is the literal meaning, the Zohar is the secret meaning. When you have body and soul united, it's perfection, the perfection of the body of humanity. So by spreading the secrets, the soul of the Torah, when we reach that critical mass of people, then the body and soul, this physical world and the upper world, this world and the light of the Creator will become one, and that's called Messiah, Mashiach, whatever word you want. I like to call it what my teacher taught me, the end of death, immortality. And immortality means your happiness doesn't die. Your relationships don't die. The good feelings don't die. The only reason we suffer is because of death. Death can kill a business. Death kills a relationship. Death kills your peace of mind. Death kills. So it's a simple war. It's a war against death. And that force called death in the Zohar, in Judaism, is really called the Satan. Not Satan, the Satan, the opponent or the adversary. That's it. So, 1935, Kabbalist Rav Yehuda Ashlag wrote a letter of warning to the rabbis of Europe. He wrote, "There's a black cloud hovering over European Jews."
Billy,
Yes.
I have to interrupt you. I have to change this screen because I can't see all the writing, so I'm just going to put us smaller, okay?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, there we go.
Can you see everything on the screen, or should we go full screen?
No, we're good now.
Okay. So I'll back up. He wrote in 1935 that there's a black cloud hovering over European Jews, the likes of which mankind has never seen before. He urged the rabbis to spread the Zohar, the soul of the Torah, across Europe. The Zohar, he warned, is the ark, and it protects one from darkness, from judgment. Says the Zohar, "And they who are wise shall shine like the splendor," Zohar, "of the firmament, with your composition of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, which is the book of Zohar." So, who are the wise? Quote from the Zohar, "It refers to those that put their effort into the splendor called the book of Zohar, which is like Noah's Ark. It protects you, like Noah's Ark protected the people when the world was destroyed. If you have that Zohar, if you're engaged with that Zohar, you're protected. And because the children of Israel in the future will taste from the tree of life, which is this book of Zohar, they will leave the exile with mercy. They do not require a test." The rabbis ignored the warnings of Kabbalist Rabbi Yehuda Ashlag. World War II unfolded. 6 million Jews slaughtered in death camps. 75 million Jews and non-Jews dead overall. Judgment. The Moroccan, Tunisian, and Algerian Jews, they did embrace the Zohar. Miraculously, inexplicably, they were not touched. A profound and stunning miracle that 95% of the world knows nothing about. Just like Rabbi Ashlag in 1935, 2,000 years ago, did a warning, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai wrote a letter of warning 2,000 years ago and said, there will be a pillar of fire. Now we will examine this letter of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai from the Zohar in a moment. First, let's go back to the Zohar Holocaust phenomena for a deeper dive to see what happened. So, Morocco. Andrei Shiraki, former deputy mayor of Jerusalem, he wrote a book in 1968. And the book that he wrote states, North Africa had a fraternity of readers of the Zohar known as the Friends. And teams of Zohar chanters would, in relays, be engaged in their devotions day and night, connecting to the Zohar. In Casablanca, there were 5 places where that Zohar was chanted 24 hours a day in relay teams. In the synagogues of Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, prayers were preceded by a reading of certain sections of the Zohar, which sometimes lasted a whole hour. Point being, they embraced and engaged that Zohar. And it served, this is a quote, as a weapon of combat. This is how the Jews of Morocco, Tunisia, and Algeria waged war. Chanters of the Zohar were incapable of understanding the Aramaic text that they were reading. Dr. Gil Andijar, professor, Columbia University.
I can't hear that, Billy.
We couldn't hear that quote?
I can't hear him talking. I could read it, but I couldn't hear him talking.
Okay. Well, we read it. So instead of, slowing things down, we can keep going.
Okay.
Helen Perez, a Moroccan citizen. Every house in Morocco had a Zohar. My parents had Zohar, she wrote. My family had Zohar. We would read the Zohar and sometimes even make parties for the Zohar. Joseph Perez, her brother, Moroccan citizen. Bombs went off in World War II, yet not one human being was scathed. This is a fact. We knew Nazi General Rommel was ready to roll his tanks over us, but suddenly the tanks weren't rolling. Meet Rommel, the Desert Fox, the greatest general in the German military, probably the greatest general in history. Rommel invaded North Africa. Now keep in mind, the destruction of the Jews was made top priority by the Nazi high command and Hitler. All resources went there first. And so Rommel demanded the deportation of 250,000 Jews from Morocco. Morocco had no real army to defend itself against the German war machine. Nonetheless, Muslim King Mohammed issued a now historic response. He said there are no Jews in Morocco, only Moroccan subjects. Just words he gave them, no army. Written in the Times of Israel in 2017, they only start talking about this publicly. King Mohammed V stopped the Nazis short of eradicating his Jewish community. Quote, indeed, the Jews of Morocco were saved. Not a single Jew living in Morocco was sent to a concentration camp. But that's not the insane part. When King Mohammed simply said no to the Nazi war machine led by Rommel, and he had no army to defend himself, Rommel just turned around and left. He packed up his bags and went home. Let's repeat that. Rommel just turned around and left. To this day, there is no rational explanation why Sephardic Jews remained virtually untouched during World War II. But Moroccans will tell you it was their weapon of combat, the Zohar. February 14th, 1943, Rommel launches a strike against Tunisia. February 22nd, everything goes wrong. The German plans to slaughter Tunisian Jews who had their Zohar never materialize. Rav Eliezer Papo, a great Kabbalist of Bulgaria in the late 1900s, he wrote, "The study of Zohar is lofty and purifying. Read it. Read it regularly, even if you do not understand the text, just like the Moroccans." He wrote that like in the early 1900s, late 1800s. Hitler and King Boris of Bulgaria, they're allies. March 1943, 8,500 Bulgarian Jews are now being deported to Treblinka. While they sit and wait at the train station, King Boris literally picked up the phone and sent them home. Farmers had threatened to lie down on railway tracks to prevent passage of the deportation trains. Why was this happening in Bulgaria? Not one of Bulgaria's 50,000 Sephardics was sent to the death camps. Morocco, Tunisia, Bulgaria, Muslims and Christians are protecting the Jews. The Bulgarian Jews became the only Jewish community in the Nazi sphere of influence whose numbers increased during World War II. A community thriving, surrounded by genocide, chaos, and order existing side by side. Why? I went to the Simon Wiesenthal Center and asked them if they knew why. I knew why. He said Rommel's troops took over most of North Africa and the Middle East. They had millions of Sephardic Jews in their grasp in Tunisia, Morocco, Algeria. I have to say, we really don't know. It was the Zohar, and now one of the biggest cover-ups and hidden truths of history, what it really means when you say Sephardic. Does that mean it doesn't apply to Ashkenazi, to Christians, to Muslims, to atheists? There are 4 levels of understanding the Bible, the Torah. Peshat in Hebrew, Remez, Drush, and Sod. Peshat is the Hebrew word for the literal meaning. Remez refers to, there's hints beneath the literal. Drush refers to the interpretation of the Torah, the Talmud, and Sod, the 4th level, is the Zohar. Sod means secrets. And this was the traditional way of learning Torah. You start with the literal, you graduate to the hints, you go to the Talmud, and when you're 40, if you're still studying, you can start to learn the secrets. That system of study is known by an acronym taken from the first letter of each level. So you have that letter Pei, or P in English, from Peshat, Resh, Daled, and Samech, which spells the word Pardes in English and Hebrew. Pardes means the orchard. So many times if you study the Talmud, it talks about these great rabbis who went into the orchard. It means they went into the 4 levels of study. If you take the letter S from the Hebrew word Sod, the secrets, instead of studying it last, you bring it to the front and you study it first. You embrace the Zohar. Even if you're not a scholar of the Talmud, even if you're not a scholar of Torah, you just embrace it with your heart. You want to make that connection to the soul, the secret. It now goes to the front and spells the word Sepharad. Sephardic are those people who learn, embrace the secrets of the Zohar, whether you understand a word or not. Reading the Zohar is good for the soul, even if it's wrong and full of mistakes. The great Kabbalist and Rabbi David Azulai. So what did Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai write specifically in his letter to us about our time? It says in the Zohar, Volume 3, The Reckoning of the Messianic Era, in the Hebrew calendar, in the year 600 of the 6th millennium, the gates of wisdom above and the fountains of wisdom below shall be opened, meaning The spiritual secrets, the soul upstairs, will reveal great wisdom down here. And it means the world of the nature of reality, how the world works, science. So the English calendar year, the Gregorian calendar year, is 1840. That's the date in the Zohar. It's the 600th year of the sixth millennium. What happened in 1840 that never happened in history? The first photograph of the moon. The first movie cameras is created. The electrical telegraph arrives, which is the first time in history, besides a physical body spreading messages, riding on horseback to pass messages onto different communities and villages. We now can send messages through an electrical telegraph out of nowhere. And then Bernhard Riemann does a mathematical equation that will be used by Einstein later for his theory of relativity. That all happened in 1840, and it happens over a period of approximately 10 years because, for those who don't study the Zohar, there are 10 dimensions to reality, known as the 10 Sphirot. So the dates that we give you, 1840, means it happens over 10 years, maybe even longer. But that is the trigger point for the next transformation of society. So now the Zohar says something very interesting. It says, now, from that date, 1840, every 60 years, during the sixth millennium in the biblical calendar, the Hebrew letter He from the name of God, the Yud Ke Vav Ke, which we'll look at in a moment, that letter He is strengthened, meaning it becomes more intensified. What does that mean? There's the name of God, the Tetragrammaton. The Hebrew letter Yud, followed by the He, followed by the Vav, followed by the final letter He. The numerical value of the letter Yud in the name of God is 10. The numerical value of the letter the letter Vav is 6. So the Zohar is saying 6 times 10 is 60. It's a code that every 60 years, that letter He from the Yud and He will be, and our letter He in our world, the far, far left He, it will be strengthened because the Vav, which connects to the letter He in the name of God, will be strengthened by a connection to the letter Yud. I know it sounds a little complicated, but this is on video, so you can play it back a few times. And your effort at making the connection will bring you light as well. It's not just becoming some intellectual exercise. So just know, what's the takeaway? Every 60 years, the letter He, which is our physical material world, will see great transformation and intensification of energy. So you saw what happened in 1840. First photograph of the moon, the telegraph, first time we have communication. 60 years later, 1900, Einstein's theory of relativity and the first airplane. If you go 60 years later, was 1960. We enter space for the first time in history. Man walks in the moon, 1969, during that 10-year process. Satellites in space achieve what's called geosynchronous orbit, which means our satellite dishes can now communicate with the satellite all the time. They'll orbit at the same speed, and therefore you're not just getting satellite TV for 4 hours a day because they're orbiting each other at different speeds. Geosynchronous means, the satellite's orbiting Earth the same time at the same speed the Earth spins. So now we can have 24-hour a day global communications. There was the Cuban Missile Crisis. We went to the brink of nuclear holocaust. So that was a major intensification of the letter He, our physical world, 1960. If you go 60 years later, the year 2020. COVID strikes, polarizes the world. Trump loses the election, polarizes the world. Pro-Trump, anti-Trump. Pro-vaccine, anti-vaccine. I'm not taking any positions here. This is not a political lecture. I'm showing you the polarization of the world. And then the worst slaughter since the Holocaust strikes Israel. once that trigger point of 2020 hit. Here's the Zohar's warning about this time. After the troubles have been aroused against Israel, all the peoples and their kings will counsel together against them during this time, raising many bad decrees, and they will come upon them with one mind. There will come troubles upon troubles, and the later troubles will cause the earlier ones to be forgotten. And then a pillar of fire shall be seen there, standing from above and down for 40 days. And all nations of the world will see this pillar of fire. And the whole world will tremble, and all the people of the world will hide in caves and cracks in the rocks, and they will not expect to survive. Rav Ashlag wrote in the 1940s, Israel will be the first to be burned by the invention of the atom bomb. The Zohar says Israel will be tested in that last redemption. But the Zohar says, quoting Daniel, the book of Daniel, but the wise shall understand. So Israel, all the Jews will be tested, but the wise shall understand. Who are the wise? Quote from the Zohar, it refers to those that put their effort into the splendor called the book of Zohar, which is like Noah's Ark. So in the final judgment day, however that pillar of fire manifests in this world, those that have the Zohar will be on Noah's Ark. And they who are wise shall shine like the Zohar, the splendor of the firmament, with your composition, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, which is the book of the Zohar. They do not require a test of judgment. And because the children of Israel in the future, which is now, will taste from that tree of life, which is the book of Zohar, they will leave that 4,000-year-old exile with mercy. October 7th, 2023, the Gaza massacre. Was there Zohar protection for the wise who understand? For the people who connected to the Zohar, the Ark, and Tree of Life? Was there protection on that day?
We don't have volume.
Yeah, you know what? You can't hear it. Not good. We're not on Zoom, so I don't know how to make sure you have volume.
Anybody have any ideas out there?
Well, let's see. Let's watch this one. And can you read?
Yeah, we could read.
So you got that?
Yep.
Okay. Another story from the music festival in Re'im, where Hamas terrorists killed at least 260 people. This is the actual text that was sent. This is the story of the daughter of Tamar Elul from Haifa. Quote, "My daughter was at the Nova Nature Party on Saturday. She hid in the bushes for 8 hours while talking by whisper and corresponding with us. She had the pocket Zohar in her bag. The book Zohar book she had with her saved not only her, but everyone who was around her, and maybe even more. Among the powerful things she received during the crazy hours that she was in the bushes is the certainty and the power of the light and the use of the powerful tools of the Anabakoach, the 72 names of God, and the protection of the Zohar." So it's just another example, and we could do a whole class for about 8 hours where I just do nothing but relate Zohar miracle stories throughout history, throughout the last 30 years in my life, people I know, miracles in the world. This is just a taste, which I didn't expect to talk about this on Friday when I was putting the lecture together. We all saw what happened yesterday. Little does anybody know that Trump had a Zohar. And here's the Zohar that was given to him. This was sent to me by Marla Maples. And if you look in the top left, we put in the names of angels because the Kabbalistic astrologers from the Kabbalah Center saw that there was an assassination attempt. This is like over a year ago. And they put these angelic names from the Zohar into the Zohar book itself as well. And when Marla went to give it to Donald Trump with some other Zohars for his security detail to give all the Zohars, Donald Trump put the Zohar in his pocket and said, "No, I'm keeping this one." So he connected to the Zohar, not just physically, more importantly, with his consciousness, with his mind. He embraced that Zohar's protection. So, as we know, by the way, this is interesting. This is interesting. I looked in the Zohar this morning, and I think if you saw what happened yesterday, when President Trump was looking one way, if he would have kept his head there, the bullet would have struck him in the brain. But when he turned, the bullet grazed his ear. So I found in the Zohar this morning, it says there's a section called the ears of Zeran Pin, which means the ears of the upper world. And it says the ears are actually part of the brain. It's included in the brain. And the left ear is judgment and the right ear is mercy. And so no one told me this, and I'm not supposed to ever give my opinion, but the connection that I made when I read that passage, so this is not official, do not spread it, do not talk about it. It wasn't given to me by my teacher, but just what came to me, so I'm pre-qualifying it. Perhaps it was and this is how the Zohar does work. This is a fact how the Zohar works. I'm not saying that's what happened here, but karmically, destiny, the tikkun, could have been that bullet was supposed to enter the brain. So the negative force, Satan, was supposed to get his piece. But when you have the Zohar, you get to go through something with mercy. Satan gets his payment, but you come out scot-free, pretty much. So that bullet was supposed to hit the brain, but through the mercy of the Zohar, the miracle, it hit the right ear, which is mercy, and the ear is part of the brain. Satan took his piece. Trump walked away. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I am guaranteeing, not on my behalf, on the behalf of the Zohar, when you have that Zohar, the Zohar guarantees you, promises you miracles. I'll give you one more example. Can you see me? Because I can't see anybody. Can you see me, Gila?
I see you.
Okay. So let's say you're doing negative actions in your life. And just to give you a silly example, let's say you're a pickpocket and you're using your hand to steal. And you're violent with your hands, whatever it is, and you accumulate negative karma. You have a debt, it must be paid. That's your tikkun, correction in your life. And you're supposed to have, your fingers in a fire for 10 minutes. So it's burned to the bone, right? Because, purification comes through fire. But if you really open your heart, and it has to be an open heart, and say, I want to change, I don't want to be that person anymore, and you embrace that Zohar as your transformational tool for change, you still got to pay the karmic debt. But instead, there's a candle now. You take your hand and you go like this through the candle. That was 1 second. No pain. You do it again. That's 2 seconds. And you keep doing that until you pay back the full 10 minutes. It's done through mercy. So the Zohar doesn't mean you get a get out of jail card free. It means whatever you do owe in your life, you can get it. You can solve your issues through mercy, through freaking miracles. And the negative force within us, the negative force that caused you to commit a negative action in the first place, wasn't you. Your soul would never commit a negative action. It's we listen to the negative force within us, the opponent, the adversary, the Satan. He incites us, he triggers us to do something negative. Now we own the karmic debt. And that same force will say, the Zohar doesn't work. You'll have doubts about it. That's his job. So any karmic debts that you accumulate, you can clean it all up through mercy and miracles. And the only force of Satan is going to try and convince you doesn't work. Now that's your free will. Nothing I can do. Nothing Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai can do. That's up to you to make that choice. The Moroccans, the Tunisians, the Algerians, they embraced the Zohar. The rabbis of Europe refused to spread that Zohar to the Jews of Europe. That's a fact. In fact, they slandered the Zohar, terrible things, which I don't want to go into today because I don't want to put any negativity out there, and they kept it from the people. So they were helpless, the Jews. The Jews didn't even know about the Zohar. We only find out about the Zohar and Kabbalah in the last 30, 40 years, thanks to Kabbalists, Ravberg, Karenberg. Fact. Without them, nobody knows about Kabbalah and the Zohar. So, Rabbi Ashlag, who founded the Kabbalah Center in 1922, wrote an article called The Trumpet of the Messiah. Christians, Jews, they all talk about, the trumpet, the shofar that will be blown at the end of days, heralding the arrival of the Messiah. It's a code. That's the Peshat. That's the literal level. What does it really mean in the level of Sod, the secret? Says Rabbi Ashlag, the shofar trumpet is only the revelation of the hidden wisdom of Zohar, our breath, sharing it, speaking it to the masses. Must go to all nations, which is a precondition and necessary requirement to come before the complete redemption. The Zohar must be given to all nations, non-Jewish nations, Gentile nations, the Muslim nations, the Christian nations. That's the prerequisite to bringing the redemption. Shocking statement. You can't teach Kabbalah to non-Jews. You can't teach Torah to non-Jews. Baloney. It's the requirement. If we didn't bring Mashiach by this date, by 1840, even earlier, it says by 1541, I don't want to go into the details, you must bring the Zohar to all Jews, but the prerequisite to bringing Mashiach, get it to the Christian, Muslim, Buddhist nations of the world. The Zohar must reach all Gentile nations to ignite the redemption. The Rav told me, bring the Zohar to the Christian nations. When I first heard this 30 years ago, I'm going, what? Why would I want, I don't get it. 20 years later, 25 years later, after going through my process of transformation, losing my ugly, pathetic, narcissistic, ego Jewish nature, hopefully, my teacher did say to me, you did transform. I won't claim that. Did I see the miracles and what that book, it's not a book. It's a light. The Zohar is a light. That's why Zohar means radiance, splendor. The Torah is written in a scroll. So is the original Zohar. but it became book form to bring it lower down to our level so everybody can connect to it. So bringing the Zohar to all nations almost happened in the 17th century. The greatest minds of the scientific revolution and the Renaissance of the 17th century, Isaac Newton, Wilhelm Leibniz, Henry Moore, Mercury van Helmont, they all said the Zohar was the Prisca Theologia. That means the primordial wisdom that will unite Christians, Jews, and science. No one knows that the greatest minds of the scientific revolution thought that about the Zohar, and they studied it. In fact, this is Newton's handwriting. You're looking at Isaac Newton's handwriting where he's writing about the Zohar, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Akiva. He's even, look to the left, he's even writing in Hebrew. He was looking to the Zohar to bring global peace. Here's more of his writings. Zohar, Zohar, Zohar. Newton said in his writings, the teachings of true antiquity and the sublime doctrines of the Hebrew nation, right? All the secrets of the Jews existed at the time of Christ and the apostles for them to study. And they're most useful for those people who are really curious about true Kabbalah. It almost happened in the 18th century. This is Ezra Stiles. He was the president of Yale. He wrote a letter. This is the handwritten letter I got from the Library of Congress, where he wrote about the Zohar, and he wrote a letter to Benjamin Franklin, who was in London at the time representing the colonies that would one day become the United States of America. And he asked Benjamin Franklin to get the Zohar onto American shores, to find a copy in Europe. Stiles wanted the Zohar studied across the country as part of the curriculum in all U.S. colleges. It never happened. Look what's going on in the universities, colleges, and schools, and even preschools for kids today. President John Adams wrote about, in a letter to Thomas Jefferson, wrote about Kabbalah, the Zohar. He said, there's not enough time in my lifetime to study it. It's so deep. So the secret power of Zohar, quoting from the book of Daniel. This is key now. This is why I want to share this today. It says in Daniel, and it says it in the Zohar, because the Zohar quotes Daniel. Because the Zohar got its name from Daniel. This is from Daniel. Those who are wise will shine like the Zohar of the firmament, and those who lead many to righteousness will shine like the stars forever and ever. Those who lead many to righteousness. That's you. That's me. Meaning those who are wise, the Kabbalists, says the Zohar, will be like the Zohar. But those who spread the Zohar, meaning that's the code, who lead many to righteousness, if you share that Zohar, if you help into the dissemination of the Zohar, you're going to shine like the stars forever. You're connected to the tree of life. And because in this merit of Zohar and Kabbalah, the Messiah will come in the future and not by any other merit. Moroccan Kabbalist Avraham Azulai wrote that in the 16th century. I got a million quotes like this. We're not going to go through them all. Only through the Zohar will we bring the redemption Messiah, which is why the Zohar is out now, which is why COVID, Trump, the last 20 years, the 20th century, all the developments, it's all accelerating to this moment. The Zohar and all of its harvests are ready to open the doors of redemption. Rabbi Abraham Kook in the 19th century wrote that. Great rabbinical master in Israel. At the time of the Messiah, evil and sin will increase, led by the leaders of the Erev Rav, the mixed multitude, the negative Jews who helped build the golden calf. They come in every generation. But then the hidden light will appear out of heaven, the book of Zohar. Only the Zohar will defeat the mixed multitude, the error of people among us, the evil in all nations. Only through the light of Zohar will we transform this world through mercy, not through judgment. And remember, this is what nobody really realizes. Miracles are our birthright. We got out of Egypt through the miracle of the Exodus, the 10 plagues, the splitting of the Red Sea. We defeated the Greeks. The miracle of Hanukkah was a miracle. We defeated the Persian Empire. Purim, miracles. We win wars through miracles, not battlefields with soldiers on the ground. That is unfortunately, when that's happening, it's already too late. So therefore, the war on the ground has to be fought, and people have to give up their lives, and blood is spilled. But we have the power of miracles. It's our birthright. We must demand and expect miracles, and that's the power of Zohar. You know how many soldiers were protected just in his last few excursions in Israel who carried the Zohars with them? And we've got stories, right? Bullet hitting the Zohar, bounces off. So many miracle stories. Why wait for that? Proactively, by the dissemination of the Zohar, proactively, we can prevent judgment and darkness. The purpose of the Israelite nation, bring the Zohar light into our world for all nations. That's why it says, be a light unto all nations. What's that light? It's the light of Zohar. It's the soul of Torah. Zohar and Torah are one and the same. And only the negative force within us and those among us in the world try and separate the two. What's Zohar? Shouldn't study it. Dangerous, secret, can't understand it. It's Torah. We're not here for an intellectual, scholarly debate about Zohar and Torah. We are here to connect to light. Judaism is not a religion about rites and rituals and tradition. Rather, those rites and rituals are really technology that connect you to light. If you think it's religion, 2,000 years of suffering hasn't worked. If you know it's really technology, the Torah, everything we do is really to connect us to light, then you bring that light into your life. It all depends upon your consciousness. This is interesting. I think you'll get a kick out of this. This was discovered about 10, 15 years ago, the earliest portrait of Jesus. Experts say this 2,000-year-old tablet contains a portrait of Jesus found in a remote cave, and it's genuine, and it's the earliest writings and the earliest depiction of his face. It's called the Jordan lead codices. Two names appear throughout this ancient, and it's a Kabbalistic codice. And there are two pictures in it. What are the two names? Who are the two pictures? Shimon and Jesus. Take my course and you get the whole story behind all of this. We can't go into it today. So here's what's going on. In the beginning, Moses goes up after the smashing of the second tablets, right? And that's the first communication we get from God, revelation on Mount Sinai. The Torah is brought to humanity, the technology to bring light into the world, okay? But the Jews build the golden calf at the instigation of the mixed multitude, the Erev Rav, the negative among us. And so Moses, the tablets are shattered, the cable is cut, the lights go out. Moses goes back up the mountain, goes into a cave, and the second tablets are given to him. And the Kabbalists say that second tablets is the Zohar radiance that went into the second tablets. That's why Moses had to cover his face and wear a veil. The Kabbalists said the light shining from Moses' face was Zohar, because Zohar means radiance. So it was a divine download. Now the transmission changed. Moses transmitted the secret oral tradition of Zohar, Talmud, all the levels, to Joshua by word of mouth. Again, first divine download, now oral transmission. Then Rabbi Shimon, 2,000 years ago, reveals the Zohar by word of mouth to his disciples. And then he instructs his student and colleague, Rabbi Abba, to write down the Zohar secrets for the first time in history, because Jerusalem was destroyed 2,000 years ago, and the temples were destroyed, and they murdered all the Kabbalists, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Ishmael, and they killed Jesus, who was truly actually just a Kabbalist, Rabbi Yeshua ben Yosef, and not the one that other people talk about. And they wrote down the Zohar because they were killing the Kabbalists. The oral tradition would have been lost. You needed to write it down, and they buried it beneath the Temple Mount. 14 centuries later, the invention of the printing press. The Zohar was discovered by the Knights Templar in the Middle Ages after they excavated beneath the Temple Mount. Take my course. That's all I can say about it right now. And they had the original manuscripts, and then they started writing manuscripts and disseminating them. And then a few hundred years later, 15th century, 1400s. That's a typo. The printing press is invented, and now communication goes from divine download, oral tradition, writing manuscripts, to mass printing. This is the evolution of spreading the divine wisdom to the masses. So what happened? Fake news, control of the narrative, which happens to this very day. The Catholic Church began burning Protestant Bibles, Qurans, Torah, Talmud in Cremona in Italy. Then comes the invention of television. Wow, mass production, mass dissemination. Then came satellite TV. And now we have a phone where you have 24-hour global communications. So the stage has been set for mass distribution of divine wisdom, the light of Zohar, to protect humanity, but not just protect, to ignite the arrival of Messiah, the end of pain, suffering, and death. So, what was that seed of mass communication? What was the moment where everything changed? The printing press. We just learned that the Catholic Church was burning all these holy books from Christianity, Judaism, Islam. But you know what happened? You know what the Pope did? This shows the power of the Zohar. He authorized the first ever printing of the Zohar in history. That's it. 1558. There's maybe 3-4 copies left in the entire world. That's the first ever Zohar printed. That's the Zohar Rabbi Ashlag used, getting it from the British Library in London. There's copies in the Vatican, and there's like maybe 3-4 in the whole entire world left. And that's where all the Zohars we have today are built from that original Zohar. And Rabbi Ashlag, of course, added commentary, etc. So, because that Zohar is the seed, and it was authorized by the Pope Paul IV, it has the seed, the power of mass dissemination to what Rabbi Ashlag says, the Gentile nations. We want to bring this specific Zohar with all the secrets of Jesus and Zohar from my other courses in a prologue and bring it to the Christians all over the world. That right there is the official sanction of the Catholic Church and Pope Paul IV, authorizing this printed book of Zohar. So we have the original Zohar of 1558, which we want to use as the trumpet of Messiah to bring to the Christian nations with all the secrets that connect Jesus, the truth about Jesus, and the Zohar, because all of Christianity was built on the secrets of the Zohar to protect it during the last 2,000 years of our exile. That's beyond the scope of today's discussion. Take my course, or we can do another discussion with Gila. We can go into that, which, by the way, amazing. This week's Torah portion is Balak. And in the Zohar section of Balak, all the secrets of Jesus and Christianity and Zohar are revealed. Amazing. So, sound the trumpet of Messiah is spreading the Zohar of 1558 to all nations of the world. What's the sign of the times? How do we know we're really in the sign of the times? We know 2020 is 5780 in the Hebrew calendar. We see all the connections, the COVID in 2020, Trump loses the election in 2020. The Torah, Numbers 24:17 is a verse. A star shall come forth out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel. Just so you know, Jacob and Israel are the same people, right? Jacob fights the angel of his brother Esau, and when he defeats the angel, when he wins the fight, he's called Israel. That's why we're called the children of Israel. We're the children of Jacob, children of Israel. Therefore, a star and a scepter is the same thing, because Jacob and Israel are the same thing. What's a star with a scepter? Says the Zohar. I see this scepter star. It's a comet. A comet has a tail. That's the scepter, says the Zohar. The tail is the scepter. And the Zohar says, I've been watching for it, waiting for it for a long time. Where's the scepter star that's going to come out of Jacob, out of Israel? Says the Zohar, quoting the Torah, I see it, but not now. I behold it, but it's not near. What does that mean? Quoting the Torah, there shall come a star out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel. The phrase, I see it, means the redemption. I see the redemption, but not at present. This is in the Torah time, but rather at the end of days, which is now. So when this comet comes near to us, it means our redemption. Again, this week's Torah portion and Zohar portion, of course, is Balak. I didn't plan to have this conversation today with you. Me and Gita were going to do this last week. I got busy. Then we're going to do it on Monday. I got busy and blah, blah, blah. And here we are today. And I swear I didn't make the Zohar Balak connection. So what does the Zohar say? I behold the comet, but it's not near. What does that mean? Because some of these matters that the Torah speaks about, they came true at that time in history. But some of them are for future times, the period of King Messiah. So when is that? When is the end of days? When will that comet arrive? Where's the sign? It says in Balak this week, on Friday, right after the assassination attempt on Trump, on Friday, on the 25th day to the 6th month in the Hebrew calendar, which is Elul, the star comet will be seen. There's always giving you the exact day, Friday, the 25th day of Elul. And at the time of the revealing of the Messiah, the inhabitants of the world will find themselves in one distress after another, and those who hate Israel will get stronger. This week's portion of Balak. And then the spirit of Messiah will stir against them and will destroy the wicked aspect of Edom, which is Rome. And Israel shall do valiantly. Balak. And when that star comet will shine in the center of heaven, a great king and ruler will rise in the world. And his spirit will be haughty, egocentric, but not in an egocentric way, in a negative way, like a haughty, confident king. He will rule over all rulers, and he will stir up conflicts between both sides, and he will overpower them. And it doesn't mean physical war. It can mean just conflicts because, hey, Donald Trump is a bull in a china shop. China shop is all lies, and he destroys it. That's one interpretation. I'm not here to talk about politics, even though I just did. During the day, says the Zohar, when that star will be covered, the Holy Land will shudder and shake 45 miles around the area of the temple, and a cave underneath the ground will be discovered, and from that cave will emanate a fire to burn the world. And from that cave will grow one great lofty branch, which someone that will dominate over the entire world, and the kingdom will be granted to him. And the Most High saints will gather to him. But then the actual Messiah will be revealed in the entire world, and the kingdom will be granted to the Messiah. So that one lofty branch will pave the way. And I just got a text as I'm speaking to you right now. Wow, from Marla Maples, talking about the Zohar and Donald Trump yesterday. Wow. Woo.
Woo.
So what does the Zohar say? On Friday, on the 25th day to the 6th month, Elul, the comet will be seen. So follow me carefully. On January 9th, in 2023, 2 observatories, one in China and one in South Africa, found a comet way, way, way out in deep space. It's called, forgive my, I can't read the Chinese version, but it's known as C2023A3. They found that comet. When's it going to pass by where we could see it? September 27th, 2024. It will be closest to the sun and we'll see it. October 12th will be closest to the earth. We'll see it again. But the first time we'll see it is September 27th, 2024, this fall. The comet will be closest to the sun and visible to the naked eye September 27th, 2024. If you convert the Gregorian calendar to Hebrew, it's a Friday, the 25th of Elul. Exactly what this week's Zohar says is the sign of our redemption. So just for curiosity, I wondered, well, what's that second date when it's closest to the sun? When it's closest to the earth? What happens in October 12th, 2024? Oh my God, it's Yom Kippur. And Yom Kippur happens to be on Shabbat. Double the power. So the church authorized the first printing of the Zohar in 1558. There's only 3 or 4, maybe 5 max of those original Zohars left. But there was a reprint for the first time since 1558, numbered limited editions that we're using as a fundraiser to anybody who wants to help disseminate the wisdom of Zohar to the world. We're going to use that money to take, we don't have sound, so I'm not going to play it. I'll just show it quickly. I met with the abbot of the Shaolin Temple, the origins of Zen Buddhism and Kung Fu. We presented with them one of those printed editions. Then they took one to Rome and then presented it to the Pope as part of this mission to disseminate to all nations. Because as it says, those who are wise will shine like the Zohar of the firmament. And those who lead many to righteousness, which is what I was trying to do to protect myself and my family, spread that Zohar to the foreign nations and the leaders and the people. And to bring it to the people, we want to bring it free. And we're raising $10,000 for each of these. We're going to be bringing in 10 Zohars of the first ever printed edition, each one serialized with a number, limited edition, to spend the money on bringing the Zohar for free to all nations of the world. Free global download. And you can contribute any amount, contribute $100, or if you want a copy of that 3-volume set of the original Zohar, we'll make that available. You can get it at my website. You can make your donation if you feel inclined to. No pressure at all. We do not want to take away your free will, but we want to fund a global campaign so Christians, Muslims, atheists, Buddhists all over the world can download the entire Zohar set with that prologue showing Zohar connections to Christianity and Islam and science and Kabbalah, science in the Zohar, and spread that light to all nations. But we need the money to spend on social media and advertising and to build the website and do everything to bring it to the entire world. So I'm happy to answer any questions at this point.
Okay, let me bring us back up full screen. Let me get rid of that.
And did I stop sharing? I hope I did. Did it work?
Yeah, do you see me now?
Yeah, I see you.
Okay, Billy, that was phenomenal. You killed it. You just kill it every time. Thank you. Amazing.
It's powerful stuff.
This is everything. This is everything. Okay, so I'm going to kick off the questions. Guys, if you have questions, start typing them in the comments and we'll try to get to them. My question is, Billy, for protection's sake, is it important to have a Hebrew Zohar, English Zohar, pocket size, full set? Practically speaking, what should people invest in for their home, for their children?
It's never, this is important, it's nothing in life is black and white. There's infinite shades of gray. It's never all or nothing. So it's like a light bulb. You can have a 5-watt bulb, a 10-watt bulb, a 100-watt bulb, a 500-watt bulb. The degree of your connection determines the wattage. So it's up to each person. We're not here to teach and preach and convince. Just share the light. And each person, based on their own karmic debts and tikkun process and their own free will, they determine how much of the connection they want to make. You want to study Zohar, you want to carry a little pocket pinchas, which you can get at Kabbalah.com. You want to carry a little with you. You want to put a whole set in your home. You want to make a donation to the 1558 Zohar. The greater the connection, the greater the light. Each person has their own destiny. Each person, one person may just need a little one because we don't know what someone's karma is. So each person has to find what resonates in their heart. What is recommended, get out of your comfort zone. That's the only criteria. A little effort, because the more effort, the more light. And that effort's also removing your doubts, because you may have felt something today, but this power, tomorrow, Satan's going to come in. Maybe 20 minutes from now, when we finish, it's going to come in, and then the doubts come in. That's your work, and you got to deal with it. No one can take that away from you. We have to earn that light ourselves. But when we do reach that critical mass of Zohars in the world, small ones, big ones, etc., downloads all over the world, there will come a point where there's more light than darkness. That's called Mashiach, redemption.
Amen. Let me see if there's any questions. I don't see any come up. I just wanted to say, as you were speaking, an important thing for Jewish people to realize, to get past that trigger of, we've held this book that we received on Sinai, and we've held this Masorah, this tradition, for 3,000 years for a reason. It is not just for us, it is for humanity. So there's kind of a little bit of an ego that I feel come up in me, like, why should we share this? We suffered for this. We were slaughtered for this. Holding this Torah hasn't been easy. Keeping the Zohar safe hasn't been easy. But I realize we have to get past that ego of wanting to keep it for ourselves. And our job was never to keep it for ourselves. It was to spread it.
Exactly.
So that really hit home today for me. I see one question here. Do you see it too, from Hiroko?
Yes. So it says, Billy, are you saying, excuse me, Billy, you are saying go for the healing route. How can you get by the Orthodox rabbis who would prohibit Zohar study for women, let alone Gentiles?
Great question, Hiroko.
Great question. The Kabbalists themselves removed the ban. It was 1541. Even a 6-year-old child can learn. Now, anyone who tries to stop you from spreading the Zohar and talks bad about it, well, then that's your free will. The Kabbalists and the Zohar say, no, now's the time. And the Zohar itself says, that the negative people who instigated the building of the golden calf, they come back as the leaders of yeshivas, the religious institutions. They'll even acclimate in the secular Gentile governments. That's the war. It's not, and these are not my words. These are not my words. This is what the Kabbalist, what the Zohar says. So, bottom line, who cares what they have to say? Women aren't entitled to a miracle. Christians aren't entitled to a miracle. That's why they hate us. They're saying, Jews, give us the light. If you don't give us the light that they want, that we cost them on Mount Sinai, when we built the golden calf, all nations suffered. If you don't give them the light, they want the land. They want your blood. Give them the light. They will elevate you. They will cherish you, says the Zohar. Carlos Moran asked me, how do we connect the Zohar to the New Testament? The whole New Testament is a code, is a parable. Jesus says, to the masses, I speak in parable, but only to my disciples do I reveal the secrets. Take my course, Unredacting Jesus. It's all there. And there's a number of free lectures as well there. That's not a course that you can do in about an hour or 2 hours instead of 14 hours to see the connection, which are all found in this week's portion. Most of them are found in this week's portion of Balak.
Yeah, I was reading it yesterday also. I read a week in advance, and I was freaking out too, Billy. I was like, oh my God, the timing. You can't make it up. Billy, are you able to scan what Marla said to you and just...
Well, I don't have permission to say anything, but she just... I don't want... No,
you don't want to say? Okay, fine.
Just tell me where she just left. She just flew out from somewhere. Thank you for always offering. Yeah, I can't.
Okay, fine. No, don't go there.
Okay. That's not even about that. It's about the Zohar, right? We don't like to deal with events on the physical world because then it's too late. We're dealing with symptoms. If you connect to the Zohar, you're above time and space. Remember, the body is governed by the physical world. The soul is above the physical world, no time or space. You can travel back and forth in time. If you want to affect the future and even fix your past, which is what Rosh Hashanah is all about, you connect to the Zohar, you can affect our reality, and then the physical world plays out as the effect, and you see things that happen. So, we don't want to get, sucked into the events of the physical reality. Yes, you must be in two places at the same time, but you must know cause is through your consciousness and connection to the Zohar. Effect is what happens in the physical world. Any more questions?
Ariel asked, did Rabbi Shimon and Jesus know each other?
Totally. The whole timeline, lies, fake news. The whole historical timeline, they changed it in the books. The wars were fought in the books. You can, just like if you control NBC, ABC, and CBS in America, you control the narrative. I would say, I'm guessing 80% of anti-Trump people, they've just been brainwashed. It's not personal. 20% have a genuine hatred because he threatens their power. But 80%, they've just been brainwashed because, and Rabbi Ashlag says it, what you hear is what you become. That's the whole purpose of having a community centered around Torah, because if you have like-minded people all working on themselves to improve themselves, connect to light, you become that. If you're in a community that's negative, you become it. You can't help it because what you hear goes into your brain. Those sound waves go into your brain, into your brain waves. It affects consciousness. This is why we must hear Torah. The sound waves of the Torah go into our brain. And this is all from the Zohar, not me. And the brain waves, the Zohar says, all reality is waves. This is before quantum physics. The Zohar says all reality is waves. You only see me now because of the light waves are going into your eyes. You only hear me because of the sound waves are going into your eyes. Why do we have to hear the Torah? The sound waves, the word of God goes into your mind, into your brain waves, and affects your consciousness, diminishing the power of the negative consciousness, amplifying the waves of power of your positive consciousness. So the fake media, the real Armageddon war, says the Zohar, Rabbi Ashlag, Kabbalist Rav Berg. The real war is the war on consciousness. That's the Armageddon war. And that's why they're battling for controls of our mind. It's not some psyop. They're just puppets. They're puppets of the supernal negative force waging war against us, which is it's a positive war, meaning it's to give us free will to overcome it so that we earn the paradise that's waiting for us. That's all. So, yeah, that's the point.
And that's why I love personally learning the Zohar and I read it in English a lot. And it maps out the battlefield. It tells you that this is a subtle enemy. It tells you how they try to hijack consciousness. And once you have the battlefield mapped out, you have a chance of making right decisions towards God.
Exactly. Like there's a negative guy named Yeshu who lived 2,000 years ago before Jesus. And he did a lot of negative things. So when they're writing up the books, they attach Jesus to that Yeshu, and they control the narrative.
Yeah.
Right? Like the war was fought in the book. So my teacher, Rubberg, told me, Billy, don't trust the timeline. It's all lies. And don't even trust the printed books. Whenever you do your work, you must, whenever you can, go to the original handwritten manuscripts. And there were times where I got the original handwritten like photocopies, a microfilm of the handwritten manuscripts. And sure enough, when it was getting really juicy about Jesus and Zohar, oh, the pages are gone. So they couldn't change the writing, but they took out the pages.
Wow.
But what we got still is amazing. As you know, it's in Unredacting Jesus, what those manuscripts say. So that's the war. The war never ended. It's a war against consciousness, controlling the narrative.
Well, there's another question, Billy. I don't really understand it. Maybe you do. The garment of Esav is asking, who said it first? Who is my mother? Rav Yeshua or Rashbi? Do you understand that question? Who is my mother?
Wait, what were the two names he said? Rashi and who?
And Jesus.
Good question. Above my pay grade. I'll find out.
Okay. Thank you.
Who is my mother? Wow. Good. I never heard that one before.
Me neither.
Thank you for sharing that, and I'll check into it.
Can you explain further what that means? Garment of Esav? Somebody asked, is Yeshua and Rav Shimon the same person?
No.
No.
Colleagues, friends. Same teacher, Rabbi Akiva.
Same teacher. And scanning the Hebrew with the eyes, Billy?
Light waves.
Right.
You see the shapes of those shapes of the letters are mystical. And it's fractal. So not only is there wisdom when you read the words and paragraphs, but it's fractal. The entire wisdom is in each letter and each sounding in the letter. So if you have the letter Aleph, let's say you have the letter Yud. But how do you spell Yud? The sound of Yud. Yud, Vav, Dalet. So even the spelling of the words generate. So the alphabet is the communication system.
Yeah.
Technology given to us by the Creator to establish a connection to what we call what Rav Berg calls the 99% reality, where perfection light exists. The only time we have chaos in our life, we disconnected. Mm-hmm. Like pulling the plug out of a wall and the lamp goes off. And yeah.
Okay, let's just look at the questions again. Oh, Hiroko asked another great question.
Yes, what is it?
Regarding Christians, Pentecostals who think that they have a relationship with God via Jesus and do see some of miracles, are those miracles from the dark side? If so, how can we bring them closer to the light?
Nice question. I'm going to give you the answer given to us by the great Kabbalist, rabbi, rabbinical authority, one of the most prolific commentators in history on the Torah, Rabbi Moshe David Valley, who lived in Italy in the 1700s. He wrote that the secrets of Zohar are hidden inside Christianity. So the whole problem of the issue that this is Rabbi Moses David Valley saying, that Jews have saying, they're calling Jesus God. He says, wait a minute. The Jews called Honi, the circle jar god. They went to Honi, great rabbi back in the day, 3,000 years ago, and they said, Abba, Abba, Father, Father, bring us rain. And so the Talmud says, no, so David Valley says, how come the Jews weren't punished for calling Honi Father? So Valley says, if the people are ignorant of the structure and the framework and infrastructure of the upper worlds, the 99% reality, the 10 sphirot, and they don't understand how it works, it's not a problem to call Honi Abba Abba. In fact, Honi brought the rain. God used Honi and brought the rain through Honi. So they weren't, not only were the Jews not punished for calling him Abba Abba, Father Father, they got the rain. So discounting Jesus because they consider him God is not the issue, says Rabbi Moses David Valley. He says, it's like a lamp. A lamp only works if there's electricity running through it. Okay? So what Valley's saying, using my analogy, is if someone says, electricity, electricity, give me light, he's not wrong calling the lamp electricity. The lamp is just the vessel, but the lamp, is not the source. So when they call Jesus God, 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 it's just their lack of information of how the upper world actually works. So when they get their miracles, they're tapping into the light force, just like the Jews got rain when they said, Abba, Abba, Honi, Honi, to Honi, give us rain. So when they get miracles from Jesus, it's the Zohar secrets embedded in Christianity, surrounded with a garment of some paganism to conceal it. And why all this happened is not for today, but there's a reason. So they do get their miracles. They're tapping into the Father through the Son, the same way the Jews tapped into the light through Honi. And the Zohar goes into the whole secret of what the Son of the Holy One, blessed be He, what it really means. So in the end, there's no contradictions. Muslims, Christians, and Jews will all be tickled pink when they see what the Zohar has to say about everything. Everybody gets their answers, and it doesn't conflict with anybody else. Only the Zohar can pull off that miracle. And that's why they had to keep it from the people, because that would bring peace to the world. If enough people understood this, they'd stop listening to the negative force within and stop being governed by the negative governments that run the world. And they only run the world because we gave them the power. The negative governments are not the problem. It's me. We all have to say it's me. If I'm rude, I feed the negative government. I feed the negative rulers. I feed the negative people in the world. When I transform myself, I take away their light. The Zohar is a hack into that reality so we can accelerate the arrival of the Messiah, which is the only reason why it's been available today. Now we're in an emergency situation. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, spread it everywhere. Rabbi Asik says, get it to the Christian nations.
And we're coming into that cosmic opening of September 27th.
Yes, it's an opening. If we don't get enough Zohars out there, if we don't get enough Zohars, we'll miss that opening and then more judgment, and we'll wait for the next opening.
Another 60 years, we're not doing that. Yeah. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that either. It can come tomorrow.
Okay.
We don't know. It can take one person who does one kind action. Your neighbor can do one kind action, and that tips the scale. We don't know. Yeah. So that's a historical. Sorry, that's a technological fact of how the world works. We don't know what that number of critical mass is. So we just have to go full steam, all in. Okay, I think we're good.
We're good? Okay.
What, is there an important question you see?
Let me just read quickly. Can you see them?
Some. They're not, if you don't see one, I think we're good.
Okay, thank you so much, Billy. Thanks for this time, and thank you for everybody who came. And share this, guys. Spread this far and wide, and contribute in any way that you can. Thank you.
Perfect. Appreciate it, and wishing everybody miracles and blessings,
Amen.
and a true connection to the Zohar.
Amen. Thank you, Billy. Thank you, guys.